Hey everybody. So this lesson is going to be about using the metronome. Metronome is a very useful device. And I think of it a lot like the way I think of practicing with a drone, which is like a drone is to pitch essentially as a metronome is to rhythm. Playing with a drone, as I've talked about a lot on this Patreon, is very useful for just figuring out like kind of like, is this in tune? Does it sound good with this other note? Am I really playing in tune here, or am I just kidding myself? But it isn't like playing with other musicians where there's a lot of different tonal information coming at you and you're trying to find like the perfect spot in between all that stuff. The metronome is very, very similar, but it's obviously for time instead of for pitch. Playing with a click and making it feel good is like a great skill, but it doesn't replace playing with other people. For one thing, people tend not to play in metronomic time, and you're really trying to play with other people, so you're trying to get everything to kind of meld together time-wise. Also, even if like the drummer, for example, is playing with a click, which happens on recording sessions a lot of times your interpretation of the click is going to be slightly different, and they can both sound right but not sound good together. So I guess what I'm saying is that the metronome isn't the be-all end-all, but I do think it's a really, really useful device. And in the beginning, if you haven't used it before, it's just a very useful kind of like for feedback, for just telling you if what you're playing is in time or not. Because a lot of times if we're playing by ourselves all the time, we don't really know. And then we go to play with other musicians and we're like, oh, right, I'm not really, like, this all isn't really in time. Like you can, it becomes very obvious when you're playing with other people. But if you're playing by yourself, you can be like, yeah, that feels right. So the metronome can kind of tell you that. And then as you go forward, you can kind of use the metronome, like, and I'm going to show you some different kind of tricks you can do, but you can kind of use the metronome to give you more, I guess, like to kind of challenge you and also to like make your internal time stronger. So rather than just playing with a click on every beat, you can start messing with the metronome so that you can like rely on yourself more than you're relying on the click. So this is all like kind of theoretical right now. So let me just like turn on the metronome. I use this app called Time Guru on my phone. I think you have to buy it, but it's not expensive. There are others. I'm sure there are free ones. There are tons of online ones. You don't need necessarily to use this, but it is nice and useful. So I'm going to put mine on 80 beats per minute, which is pretty slow, but not super slow. And I'm going to play Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain. So this is just, I'm not going to play the whole tune, but just a little bit. This is just, and this is how I would start. If you haven't played with the metronome before, just playing with a metronome on every beat. So that's just a metronome as a quarter note. Click, 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 click. Here, listen to it. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's just one phrase, but that's an example. And you can, what you might notice about that is I'm really trying to play exactly in time, if I can. I'm trying to get, here, let me just sing it. So when I play a note that's supposed to be on the 1, I want it to land at exactly the same time as the click. Exactly. Now, right on the click. And that's it's maybe a little stiffer than you might like to play that tune if you were playing it with other people or you were playing it alone. But as a way to practice, it's great for sort of keeping you honest. Okay, so that's the first and sort of most obvious thing you can do with the metronome. Now, the real sort of like heart of this lesson is I want to talk about two approaches. One is what I'll call slow metronome, and then the other one I will call fast metronome. So slow metronome is, I mean, they are exactly as what they sound like. But in slow metronome, what I like to do is basically take something like what I just did and cut the metronome in half, but play the tune at the same speed. So as I do that, I'm kind of relying more on my internal time, on my like self, and less on the click to kind of like drive the time for me. So here, I'm going to put it, so I said that was on 80, right? So I'm going to put it on 40. So I'm going to cut it in half. And it doesn't matter. Some people, you might play it with the click on 2 and 4 of a measure. You might play it on 1 and 3. It depends on your preference. For now, I'll just do it on 1 and 3. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Let's see if I can do 4. So you need to concentrate more. It's a little harder. It's not like crazy hard, but it's harder. And you kind of, what you'll probably sort of, you may have seen me doing sometimes, and you see a lot of drummers do this. Sometimes you'll see if a drummer plays a really slow beat, where maybe they're not playing the hi-hat. Maybe they're just going, a lot of times you'll see them kind of like filling that space in the air. So they're not actually like playing it, but they're feeling it. So they're feeling what all of that in between space. And that's called subdividing. So what you're doing there is I'm feeling all of this in between space in my body. Right? That's going on inside. Like I basically feel it in my chest. Okay. So that's 40. So now you can really challenge yourself and get it. And this is not easy and takes a lot of time to work on, but you can do it. I'm going to cut it in half again and put it on 20. And this takes a minute. And sometimes when you're doing this, you basically have to listen to it for a minute to really hear it. So I'm just going to have the metronome on 1 of every measure. Okay? 1. Okay, 2, 3, 4. Okay, the last one is like slightly behind, but close. If you play with that metronome on 20 for a while, well, first of all, I would say obviously get it so that you can do it on 80, and then get it so you can do it on 40. And if you can start getting it so that you keep cutting it in half and you can get more yourself relying more on what's going on inside you to kind of keep time, then you can play along with it for a while and start to really like feel it, it takes a while to do. And sometimes you need to just sit there with the metronome on 20 for 5 minutes playing the tune, trying to like find where the time is. But all that time you're developing your internal sense of time instead of like relying on what is essentially a computer. So the other way, before I even get to fast metronome, playing a tune is just one way to do it. You can also improvise. So if you've gotten really used to, and this is like this lesson, basically we're just getting more advanced as we go along. If you're still just like, I'm still just working on playing in time, then keep that metronome at the quarter note and just really, really try to lock up when you're playing. And you don't need to do this necessarily all the time, but if you're playing something, try to lock it up so that when you're playing those downbeats, they land exactly with the click, or as close to exactly with the click as you can. But okay, so improvising with it. I'm way ahead. Okay, yeah, so you need to concentrate a lot to do it. It's not easy, but you can do it. Okay, so that's the metronome on 20. So that's slow metronome. Practice tunes, practice improvising. I'm just kind of playing in E. You can also like play over a specific chord progression. There are absolutely like a million things that you can do. So let's do fast metronome, which is really the opposite, but also is hard. So let me see. I think I have to do... This might be tricky. Nope. Okay, so I'm going to do this. It's not going to be that fast. It's going to be, the metronome is going to be a 95. But what I want to do is have the click be on the ands. So the click is going to be on 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... So again, you're relying on your sort of, like, the metronome isn't giving you the ones. It's not giving you the strong beats. It's giving you the off beats. So you have to sort of provide the strong beats on your own. And this gets harder as it gets faster. 95 is not too bad, but once you get over 100, it just starts to get like sort of crazy making in a way that, you know, you really just have to play really precise. So this is like 110. I'm just going to play. Three, four, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, okay, so that's hard. You just kind of like have to rely again on your like your body is keeping time. So the metronome isn't doing it by itself. One thing I forgot to mention that I want to say about slow metronome is if you get like deep into it and you're like, okay, I have like putting the metronome on 20, it doesn't have to be on one, right? It can be on another beat in the measure, or it can even be on an and, which is really hard. But again, these are all different things you can do to kind of like keep you honest in terms of time, but really force you to take responsibility for the time. So 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So that's 2. 3, 4, 1, 2. Now, the other way is to put it on like the and of whatever. And that's just, it's really hard. 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, 4, 1, 2. Sorry. 1, 2, and 3, 4, 1. That's really hard. 20 is very slow to do that on, but you can do it. And that's the kind of thing that I have to probably do it for about 5 minutes to really get good at it. But hold on one second. Why did my computer turn off? Okay, it's still going. Okay. Anyway, so that's a bunch of exercises you can do. Remember, as I said, if you're just starting out with the metronome, just do it on quarter notes and get good at that. Get used to that. Try to make it as precise as you possibly can. Obviously, there are also other ways to work on time. I've talked a lot about this app called Drum Genius. I think it's great. There are other ones too, but playing along with drum loops is a really great way to make it feel a little more like alive. But it's very different. These kind of, once you start doing these kind of tricks with the metronome, you can really kind of challenge yourself to like find the rhythm elsewhere. Like it teaches you to kind of like do it yourself, which I think is really, really valuable. So anyway, take your time with these exercises. They're challenging, and let me know what you think, and I'll see you soon.